Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturn. Almost 2 years ago this summer, I helped a friend to cut down a big cherry tree that was in his backyard. He gave me some of the wood from the trunk, and I always appreciate that. At that time, I made a nice little green turned bowl for his wife. I also turned some blanks that I intended to turn into boxes. This is one of them. In this case, I put the tenons on both ends, cut it in half, and then bored out both ends, one for the top, one for the bottom. Wrapped it up, put it away to dry. Here's the other one that we'll make today. Again, it was stored like this, then turned and finished. So let's make a nice cherry box from green wood.
I first roughed this cherry almost 2 years ago in the usual manner. I turned a cylinder with tenons on both ends, parted it into 2 pieces, then bored out the middle. Then I wrapped it in a plastic wrap with the 2 bored ends exposed so that it could dry from the inside. Then basically I forgot about it for about 1.5 years. Since the tenons are now slightly distorted, the first task is to recut the tenons. I've mounted the top in my chuck using the original center. Then I'm recutting the tenon with a small gouge and a small skew. Then mount it again using the tenon. Then trim the outside before moving to the center. I retrimmed the center with my square carbide. Finally, I cut a bit more to form a lid joint, taking time to check the sides to be parallel, sighting the lathe ways with a pencil. Then sand and finish. I'm using my mineral oil and beeswax mix for the finish. Then on to the bottom chunk of wood. It's really the same routine. Trim the tenon, remount to trim the exterior. However, back when I roughed this out, I drilled the inside very deep. I don't want to go that deep with this project, so I'll part off some now, at risk of losing grain alignment. Unfortunately, I'm bound by what I did 2 years ago. I should have left more wood for the bottom and potentially a jam chuck. With the cylinder a bit shorter, it's back to truing the interior, then sanding and finishing the inside. Then on to cutting the lid joint tenon to fit the lid. This is a series of cut, test the fit, cut, test the fit until it actually fits. I'm aiming for a snug fit. Later I'll sand the joint to relax it just a little bit. Now I've put the 2 pieces together and marked the depths of the interior. I like to turn the pieces this way to get a smooth transition between the top and the bottom and to make sure it looks good as a total unit. It does not take long to reduce the diameter and shape the box. I decided to cut V-grooves at the top and bottom marks, then add a couple more. I decided to add accents by burning the V-grooves with a wire. Then, to add more interest, I reduced some of the top diameter above the joint area. Then on to sand with the same oil and beeswax mix I used to finish the interior. Now I'll reverse the bottom onto the chuck again so I can finish the bottom. I'm doing a little more shaping, but it's constrained by the hollow interior. When trying to cut the final nub off, the box came out of the jaws. Fortunately, no damage. The jaws don't have much to hold on to as they're almost fully closed. I'll try again with a couple of layers of paper towels. I don't have much more to do, just the center of the bottom. No aggressive cuts now. Since I sanded with the oil and beeswax mix, the only finishing is to run the lathe at high speed while I polish with a paper towel. After sanding the bottom, I sanded it with 400 grit and polished it again. The grain lines up pretty good despite so much lost from the middle. Almost 2 years ago, this little box started as a wet hunk of wood in the middle of a cherry tree's trunk. It's been nearly a couple years in the making, but finally I have a nice cherry box. The lid has a stiff vacuum fit. That's all for now. We'll see you next week with another project. Please subscribe to both my website and YouTube channel. And do yourself a favor. Always wear your face shield. You can thank yourself later. Until next time, this is Alan Stratton from Woodturn.